I figured that was a good story for this morning. I hope everybody enjoys it. This is a proclamation from the mayor of Tucson. Now, we have these whereases, because it's very official, so there's this word whereas, like pointing out, like saying, hey. So when I say whereas, everybody else says whereas, and then I read the little section, and then we go on to the next whereas. If you want to test it out, let's test it out really quick. Whereas. Whereas. All right, we're ready. We're ready. So this is City of Tucson, Office of the Mayor. Whereas. Whereas. Every year on June 20th, refugees are remembered and honored for their courage and spirit in overcoming some of the worst human rights atrocities. And whereas. Whereas. Tucson is committed to honoring the strength of the human spirit by welcoming refugees from around the world as they become members of this community, bringing with them their culture, talents, and skills. Whereas, we join in welcoming refugees while remembering that it is also our responsibility to speak out on behalf of those who continue to suffer from injustice abroad. And whereas, Tucson has proudly resettled and served more than 14,000 refugee survivors from close to 30 different countries, and we applaud the courage of refugees and the devoted efforts of public and private agencies, employers, volunteers, and friends who partnered to overcome cultural, language, and economic barriers to restore hope, dignity, and freedom for refugees. And whereas we keep in this city, country, and the world, community, a place where all may have that opportunity. Therefore, I, or he, Jonathan Rothschild, Mayor of Tucson, do hereby proclaim June 16, 2018, World Refugee Day in the city of Tucson, and encourage all residents to acknowledge the courage shown by our refugee community and welcome them as our fellow Tucsoners. You guys are a great inspiration to me, all your courage and spirit. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Let's enjoy the day. Let's have a great day here.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor.
So, to get started, I'm very happy to introduce you to our MC, Mr. Khalid Al-Jashmi. Who is a red nothing is lost in translation. The RiskNet Steering Committee is always looking to expand. So if you're interested in joining, please speak to one of our current members. The commitment's only a few hours a month. So I'd like to ask any committee members that are in the room to please stand up. I know everybody's running around. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. They're listed in the program. Without you, we couldn't have done this. So thank you very much. So that everyone can enjoy this morning's program, we have interpreters available throughout the auditorium. Interpreter for the U.S. military for 6 years. Khalid came to the United States in March 2012 and in 2014 began working as a case manager at Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest. In September 2017.
Good morning, everybody. Our first speaker for today is Puspa Rizal, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us today due to his wife delivered the baby today 2 weeks earlier. So yes, so congratulations to Puspa and his family. And I will be happy to read his speech. If you want to be happy, then you always need to be satisfied. But satisfaction is the greatest happiness. Good morning. Namaste in his language. Welcome speech and on the auspicious occasion of the World Refugee Day 2018. First, I want to welcome everybody into the program. I am Puspa Rizal, one of the members of the Bhutanese community, treasurer of BMAT for second term. and member of the Refugee and Immigrant Service Provider Network WISPNet Steering Committee. I was born in Bhutan and passed my childhood there and fled from the country in 1990 when I was 8 years old. Country. In Bhutan, we needed to be 18 years old to get citizenship, and Nepal would not award citizenship to us Bhutanese, the Bhutanese. Refugees are people who fled out from a country because of political conditions or civil war, or were forced by the government to go and flee to another country. Refugees, they do not have their own land or citizenship of any country. As per UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission of Refugees, currently there are 65.6 million either refugees, asylum seekers, or internally placed people across the globe. Countries who granted refugees, generated refugees this day too are Syria, 5.6 million refugees, Afghanistan, 2.5 million refugees, South Sudan, 2.4 million refugees, Myanmar, 1.1 million refugees, Somalia, 876,000 refugees, and Democratic Republic of Congo, 735,000 refugees. My story, the government of Bhutan forced Bhutanese Nepali people to leave the country after we protested against the government and asked for freedom and democracy. Most of the Nepalese people from South Bhutan left the country after harsh laws imposed by the government. The Bhutanese Nepali people came to Nepal and begged for a place to live in as refugees, for jobs, education, safety, and the opportunity to own homes here in Tucson. We are proud to be the citizens of the United States after losing our rights of citizenship in Bhutan 30 years ago. We celebrate World Refugee Day every year, and this year we are also proud to be here to celebrate it with you all. Thanks to everybody being a part of the celebration today. On behalf of BMAT, BMAT is the Bhutanese Mutual Assistance Association of Tucson. These refugees came from different educational, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds. The group believes that through music, it will be easier for refugees to learn about and integrate more easily into American society. Please welcome Tucson Beat.
Tucson Refugee Beat. It's called Tucson Refugee Beat because all of us, we came from different places and find ourselves in Tucson. And we are very happy to be here and share with you African music, which we named Refugee Tucson Beat. We have three pillars, which is education for boys and girls, and harmonize values, culture, laws, and everything in use in what we have in Africa and what we found here, and the aiming at work and respect. Each and every member has to go to school. Each and every member has to respect each and everyone, has to respect anyone around, teachers, everywhere, wherever we meet. So everything started like this. Before we came here, everything started like this. a war that starts in our region, Congo, Burundi,
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I would like to start off by saying that there is a girl out there, and she is lucky. She's lucky to be living in the United States, lucky to have a roof over her head, and lucky to have a dream and an education. Her name is Farida Ayub. Here's the catch. That's me. Nice to meet you. You all came here to America in account of the story. Your relatives most likely came here by sea, facing harsh conditions to live on this land, and yours too. They voyaged the oceans to see this land for themselves, some willingly and some were forced. They immigrated here. You all have a story, so here's mine. I am the daughter of former refugees, the daughter of parents who had to leave their country because they were persecuted and unwanted, the daughter of a Huska Turks. My ancestors were born in Turkey, and my parents were born in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. I was born in Russia, but I will always be a Turk. But most importantly, I am the daughter of parents who were willing to leave their own families behind to provide a stable life as well as an education for their 3 children by flight to America. America, the land of the free and the brave, so powerful that it was only a dream to so many people. a dream worth living, the American dream. What a powerful phrase, isn't it? What comes to mind when those three words are spoken? Is it the freedom it guarantees, the wealth, the education? Shouldn't everyone deserve to live a happy life, no matter the color of your skin, your beliefs, or your social status? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. This year alone, President Donald J. to 45,000 people, although only half of that population will actually step foot on this land. There are 65 million forcibly displaced people in the world today. In order to comprehend how big of a population that was, I want you to imagine, for every single minute of this year, 20 people were kicked out of their homes. That is 65 million people. If you were to ask anyone if they wanted to leave their homeland, the automatic reply would be no. We did not choose to leave our homes. We were forced to. And eventually, we accepted America as our new home and as a place of hope that will allow us to pursue the American dream. Immigrants enter this country under immense stereotypes. Hispanics are automatically assumed to be working in housekeeping. Asians are recognized as the smartest men and women. Asian women are supposedly the ones that provide for our manicures and pedicures. People of color are all said to be members of dangerous organizations. None of those stereotypes define a person. All immigrants can be successful, regardless of their skin tone, beliefs, and social or legal status. A stereotype shouldn't be an excuse to push these people away from our country. Our parents worked so hard. For example, when we arrived in this country, my father and my mother knew no English. My sister and I always wondered why everyone else's parents spoke the language, but ours didn't. We didn't understand. We had to learn the language for us. As my sister brought home her kindergarten homework, my mom would print extra copies of it, one for her, one for my sister, and one for me. As my sister and I learned English, so did my mom. And to this day, my mom continues to learn English and often feels bad when she stutters or uses the wrong text. I want you to know, Mom, that you are my superhero. You learned a new language for us just so we can. Now, I know that there's conflicts among job affiliations between refugees. Actually, the fact that these refugees and or immigrants are taking these positions allows America's economy to thrive. In fact, 60% of companies were begun by immigrants. According to globalcitizen.org, immigrant-founded companies make up 46% of all Fortune 500 companies in high tech. Incoming foreigners have contributed immensely to America's economy. Also, how far would we really be without the help from these refugees and immigrants? One concrete example of this is the iPhone industry. How many of you here own iPhones? Raise your hand. I know I did. What if I told you that Steve Jobs, the creator of the multi-millionaire company, is the son of a Syrian immigrant? Steve Jobs' father, Abdul Fattah Jandali, was an immigrant from Syria. His birth parents brought him to America on account of a dream and means of survival. He was then adopted by an American family in California. Little did they know their son would grow up to be the head of a large company here in a country that was foreign to him. My father told me this information, and I didn't believe it at first. So I decided to do some research, and it turned out to be true. So then it made me wonder, could I, as the daughter of refugees, be successful and make a difference in this country, despite the comments I've heard so many times telling me I couldn't? I am in a society where refugees and immigrants are oftentimes bashed. And so to think that we could be successful was never an option. Strangers and the media had slowly engraved it into my head that we couldn't be anything on foreign land. But here I am to prove you wrong, because I am lucky. I have lived here for more than a decade. I know English and the laws of America way more than I know the laws and languages of Turkey and Russia. America will forever be a part of me, and for that, I am lucky. I will be something big in the future. I may be a future lawyer serving this country, maybe an oncologist, or maybe a future member of Congress. So just in case, between 2040 and 2050, look out for Frida Ayub and vote for me.
Thank you, Karina, for sharing your story. Thank you very much.
Proclamation for us all. We also have joining us Councilman Paul Durham, Councilman Steve Kazavic, Councilman Richard Fimbres, Pima County Supervisor Richard Elias, TUSC Superintendent Gabriel Trujillo, Jimmy Hart, who is the TUSC Director of African American Services and Refugee Services. He does quite a job there. And also, last but not least, Congressman Raul Grijalva. At this time, I'd like to bring up my boss, Mr. Charles Shipman, who is the State of Arizona Refugee Coordinator, to say a few words regarding volunteerism and community partners.
Good morning. It's great to be here. And nobody needs to apologize for the rain. I like rain. I like World Refugee Day. And I like Tucson, so it's all good. All good reasons to be here. I'm probably one of the few that are here that aren't actually from Tucson, but it's great to be with you, and I always appreciate the opportunity to come. So Georgia asked me to say a few words about volunteerism, and basically its value. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that in the context, of course, of refugee resettlement. So despite the changes in the U.S. refugee resettlement landscape, I'm guessing that many of you are probably very familiar with what's been going on in the past year. One thing that hasn't changed is that the United States is still committed at the moment to resettling those refugees that are most in need of resettlement. And that means that we help some of the most vulnerable people in the world. Those are people who have endured the worst kinds of injustices and the worst types of human atrocities. And we're helping them to transition to what can be a challenging transition to life in the United States and Arizona. One thing that we've known for a long time, and I'm sure that, again, many of you are probably very aware of this, government assistance alone can't possibly meet the many needs that are needed in terms of providing help for refugees to make this transition. That assistance is often very limited, and it's often in flux, and there would be very little hope of even doing some of the basic things that we're trying to do to help refugees and other humanitarian beneficiaries with achieving the goals of refugee resettlement without the help of local communities and resettled and established former refugees who've experienced firsthand what it means to be a refugee and to share, as you heard this morning, from some very well speakers about the possibilities of hope and success in this country. A lot of people don't realize that it was faith organizations who actually were the first to step up to help refugees. They have a very honorable legacy in advocacy for refugees' access to resettlement as a durable solution. If you don't know, refugee resettlement is the third relied upon, which means it's the last relied upon solution for refugees as a durable solution. And faith communities have played a critical role in providing protection and assistance to refugees, particularly since the end of World War II. In fact, before the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program was codified and funded through the Refugee Act, it was churches and synagogues who took up the financial and logistic and social responsibility for resettling refugees. So before there was a government dollar involved, it was churches and synagogues who were supporting refugees, and I think we should really remember that. It was this act of compassion that laid the groundwork for what many consider today to be the longest lasting and most successful public and private partnership model. So volunteers and faith and other community organizations remain very instrumental in resettling refugees, and never more than now. Resettling refugees from a broad range of geographic, ethnic, and faith backgrounds, and they bring immeasurable strengths to the United States refugee assistance endeavor, including friendships and bonds with refugees that go beyond mere dollars and statutory service periods. Those of us who serve in traditional refugee resettlement roles are very beholden to Tucson and Pima County for your love and concern, for your commitment, for your enterprise, and for your continuing to come alongside refugees as they take their rightful place in their new communities and country. Those of you who give of your time and resources to support and care for refugees, and yes, love them, might not fully appreciate just how much of a part you played in providing protection and hope for refugees. But I want to assure you that it is not unnoticed, and you have my sincere thanks for opening your hearts now and for so many years and in so many ways. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We have 3 volunteers.
Sorry, this podium, I'm surprised I don't have nightmares about it. I only have one suggestion. It would be great if it came up. It's like waiting for everything to slide down. So our next award recipient is Emily Martinez. Emily volunteers with Pima Community College's Refugee Education Program, and program staff nominated her. Here are some of the sentiments that Emily's colleagues shared about her. Dylan Blossom, the instructor that Emily assists, had this to say. Emily is a wonderfully dedicated and effective teacher. She takes the time to get to know each and every student by making them the experts, gently encouraging them to share about themselves, their experiences, and their native languages. Because of her effort, Emily is great at identifying students excel and where they may need more support. She is a valuable asset to the classroom, and the students love her. The program's volunteer coordinator, Montserrat Caballero, said, from the moment she contacted me to express interest in volunteering, Emily showed initiative, interest, and commitment. She showed up early to her interview, actively participated in training, and followed through on every part of her initial training and placement. She has volunteered 94 hours year-to-date while attending school full-time and working part-time. She is a model volunteer. And Lisa Fogel, the program's coordinator, said, Emily has gone above and beyond as a volunteer. She has reached out to me to gather more information about teaching methodologies, as well as doing her own research. She has been quick.
Last but not least, this is going to come as a surprise to this person. She was actually nominated by the Resident Steering Committee for her many years of work with refugees here in Tucson. Many years ago, she started out as the grant writer for the Somali Bantu Association of Tucson. She wrote grants, did their budgets, wrote letters of intent, conducted research, and also assisted in negotiating their federal grant, which they held for 3 to 4 years here in Tucson, along with the Bhutanese Mutual Assistance Association. And then she happened to overlap her time and started serving as the program director for the Bhutanese Mutual Assistance Association of Tucson. She oversees the administration, the financial and programmatic aspects of the business, including tax preparation, guides Tarrant Arizona Corporation Commission update information. She wrote grants and letters of intent. She helped with the planning of cultural activities and festivals. She assisted clients with social services, including citizenship problems. She also promoted the organization in a presentation at the Saddlebrook Rotary Club, which was the Arizona Free Thinkers organization. Several Bhutanese members spoke there, along with the director of IRC, Jeffrey Cornish. Thank you, folks, and thank you, Charles.
Wait,
What?
one more thing. I think we have one more honor to accept, and I think Jack, for some people, you're raising their hand when they're young.
One name always comes up, and it's Georgia Eddy. So Georgia, on behalf of the Resident Steering Committee, thank you for all you do for residents.
Thank you, volunteers. I have two quotes. I like them about refugees. The first one says, refugees do not necessarily have the time. They just have the heart, and they really have the heart. And the second one is, volunteering is the ultimate exercise of democracy. You vote in elections once a year. But when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community you want to live in. And this is here to give a close from Arizona 3rd Congressional District. So welcome, friends.
Thank you very much, and it was said correctly, to the volunteers that are the soul of any great effort. Congratulations to all of you for not only what you do, but for the consistency of doing what you do. I try to come to World Refugee Day here in the hometown, Tucson, where I was born and raised, and it is always a special day. It's a special day because it's a reminder, and to the young people today and their families, and congratulations for your citizenship effort. It is you're a welcome addition to this great democracy of ours, and to exercise the full rights and privileges that comes with that. Congratulations to you and your achievement. I come on these days because it's really important, because to remind ourselves that how refugees that come to this nation, great nation of ours, they enrich us. They enrich us as a community, and they make us a more just place as a community. And being part of this community, I think it is a way to sustain the legacy that we have in this nation of ours. The values that are important to us as a nation and as Americans. The values that are important to the world. And refugees that come to this country seeking shelter from violence, genocide, religious and political persecution, seeking a security for themselves and their families, and coming to the United States of America because of its history, because of its values. That's our foundation as a nation. It's our identity as a nation. For many, there is one. And that's the deep connection that we have. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us special. And that's why we have to fight very hard not to lose that core part of our identity. This is no time to take that identity of our nation with a pail that talks about turning back a clock that never should be turned back, to making division and victimizing and re-victimizing people as a consequence of a political agenda, and not as a consequence of who we are as a country and what our identity is. I don't think, I was taught that greatness doesn't come from creating division. Greatness doesn't come from creating fear. greatness doesn't come by ignoring our moral center. That lesson applies to each and every one of us personally, but it applies to us as a country as well. And so today we're reminded of it, because the greatness of America is tied in its identity, in its history, in its values, in its moral center. And it's not tied. It's kind of a dire consider and treasure things that make us unique, our liberties, our freedom, our history, and our legacies that personified in the people that are here today, that all of us are welcoming, thanking,